don't forget to like and subscribe.
Hello there. I'm still continuing chapter 4. Yeah, I've broken it up a little more than I usually do, just because I need to get back in the rhythm of reading every day. Or every day. Very often. I really got out of reading just because work. And hopefully I'll get back in the habit of reading, because it really does help. It's funny how, being dyslexic, I always wanted to write and create stories. And yeah, it's just a pain reading. I mix things up, and it doesn't help that my job actually requires me to look at numbers and figure out numbers. And yeah, numbers are difficult for me because I jumble them up all the time. I'll stare at something for a while just to figure it out. But yeah, I digress. Back to my book, part 4, 5, chapter 4. So, what just happened was Ash went into his meditation state. He woke up, was surprised that Ellsri and Ares were literally cheek in cheek right in front of his face. So he was surprised. Ares ran off, yelling, "Daddy! Daddy! He awake! Ash awake!" Elise, however, did not move and chose to answer Ash. Daddy told us to keep an eye on you. We were playing a game when we heard you start to move. So we came to see you, she said with a happy smile on her face. It is late, she added. Ash looked around, realizing that it was dark. All the animals had scurried off to their homes, and Peter, Gerd, and Hollis were nowhere to be seen. Well now, you were in that state for a rather impressive amount of time, his father said. Impressive, okay. His father said as he walked up to Ash and Elise. Ares jogged to keep pace with their long-legged father. You will need to learn to keep track of how long you are in that state. You do not want to lose yourself, he finished as he stopped in front of Ash. Ash looked up at his father in confusion at that. Lose myself? I cannot say for certain, but before moving here, there were a few incidences involving mages getting so lost in their own minds that when they found their way back, they were different, his father said, as he started to look off into the distance. Or lost, he added absently. Ash had never heard his father speak of what had led to them. Ash had never heard his father speak of what had led them out of the bigger villages before, but was afraid to disturb him. What is different? Ash heard his sister Elise ask. Oh, it is nothing, my dear, he said, returning from his memory. Ash hung his head. Anyway, that is why the villagers fear me and shunned us out here. Corian, now back on topic, continued. Okay, try to reach and pull this piece of cloth out of my hand, he said to Ash while holding his hand out and opening his palm up. Ash looked at the cloth and reached out with his mind to try and pull it out of his father's hand. As he did so, he could feel all around him. He closed his eyes to better feel his surroundings, and even with his eyes closed, he could almost see. As he felt his father's presence, he reached out his hand. Ash focused on the fabric and tried to grab it and bring it to him. And it worked. Kind of. The cloth came flying from his father's hand and hit Ash right in his face with a wet slap. Ash used his outstretched hand to grab the wet rag off his face and dropped it to the ground, all the while staring coldly at his father. He heard laughing from behind Corian, and there were all his siblings giggling at what had just happened. Hearing his brothers and sisters laugh, and seeing the big smile on his father's face, he could not help but see the humor in it, and laughed a bit himself. See, it is important to know where the source of your power comes from, and how to manipulate things, his father continued, as the laughter died down. There are two ways you could have caught it. One, he said, while raising his finger, you can move it towards your hand, then move it towards your hand, then pulling it directly to yourself. Corian demonstrated as he pulled the wet rag off the ground and into his hand. And two, he said, adding the second finger to his still free hand, you can catch it on the way to you. Corian turned to a stick laying on the ground in the distance. As the stick came flying towards his head, he moved the hand that held the two fingers up and caught the stick with it, then swung it around with a flourish. There, you see, he said as he turned back to Ash. Ash nodded as he looked at the stick and rag in his father's hands. Corian put the hands behind his back. And you can try it again tomorrow. It is late now, and everybody needs to go to bed. Sighs and complaints rose up from the children, but they all obediently turned and walked towards the cottage. Ash, his father, remained outside for a little bit longer. Ash and his father remained outside for a little bit longer. The sky was dark, and snow began to fall, coating the world in purity. "Thank you, Dad," Ash said. "I am sorry about this morning. I was being childish." Corian looked at Ash and smiled. "Son, I love you, and I know I might be a bit tougher on you than the others, but you are my firstborn, and, well, you set the example for the rest of your siblings." Corian set a hand on Ash's back. "If you work hard, your siblings will work hard. They will see you and want to be more like you. They do not want to be like your mother and me. They just want to be like you." Ash looked up at his father and grinned. Scar got up off the ground and shook all the snow off himself. Ash and his father, suddenly coated in the flying snow, began to laugh, the moment having been broken by the giant drake wolf throwing the powdery substance everywhere. "Let's go inside," Ash said. Corian patted his back, and Scar ran on ahead. Next will be Chapter 5. I think this was the shortest video of my reading. It was just the last few pages. That would be Chapter 4, Ash's Magic. Let me know what you thought. Yeah. I guess I'm going to not really break it down, just ramble in the next video about Chapter 4 and other stuff, because I don't technically talk about the chapter. I've realized that. I just talk about bits and pieces, and then I just trail off. Thank you all for listening, watching, tuning in, viewing. Please like, share, and subscribe. yeah, please watch the next video, which should be coming out soon. It's either a gaming video or a review or another book reading. Who knows? Or another chapter reading or a part of the chapter reading, because I never read the entire chapter in one go. Chapters are too long for me to do that. And reading aloud, it takes far too long than reading in my own head. Doesn't help that I stumble over my own writing. Thank you all for watching. Read to you next time. Toodles!